Ready to escape into a world of enchanting pixels? What is up, my peeps? And today we are going to be doing yet another 2-in-1 video. This time with the Magic School Bus, the original series, not the stupid reboot like Thomas. So, we'll first start off with the Wild Whale Watch. The Wild Whale Watch, Chapter Book. My name is Wanda. I'm one of the kids in Miss Frizzle's class. Maybe you've heard of Miss Frizzle. Sometimes we just call her the Frizz. She's a terrific teacher, but a little strange. The Frizz loves science, and she knows everything. She takes us on lots of field trips in the Magic School Bus. Believe me, it's not called magic for nothing. We never know what's going to happen when we get on that bus. Miss Frizzle likes to surprise us, but we can usually tell when she's planning a special lesson when we just look at what she's wearing. Ain't that the truth? One day, she came into class wearing a yellow dress covered with purple blobs. Oh jeez, sorry about that. Up close, we could tell that the blobs were really little whale shapes. I had seen whales on TV, but I never thought I'd get to see one in person. Thanks to Miss Frizzle, I got closer to a whale than I ever dreamed of. I'll tell you what happened. Chapter 1. Miss Frizzle is late, Tim said. He looked up at the clock on the classroom wall. She's usually here before we get in. We were all sitting at our desks, ready to begin the first lesson of the day. Science. Yeah, D.A. said, and she's hardly ever late for science. Just then, the door opened. Miss Frizzle came waltzing in, carrying a large, lumpy envelope. Good morning, class, she sang out. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I had to stop by the office to pick up some important mail. She held up the envelope. Here are the tickets for the next field trip, she announced. And I promise you, you're all going to have a whale of a good time. I knew that was coming. I get it. Is it Keisha? I think that's how you pronounce her name. Yeah, Keisha, because there's two E's. If there wasn't, it would be Kesha, the famous pop singer. Anyway, it is Keisha. Miss Frizzle said, I asked my old captain... Wow. I asked my old friend Captain Gill to send me tickets for the Whale Watch cruise on his boat, the Neptune. We're going today. Yay, Ralphie yelled. I can hardly wait. I've always wanted to see a real-life whale. Me too, Tim said. I hope we get to see a blue whale. They are huge. We might see a blue whale, Miss Frizzle said. I can't promise. Different kinds of whales live all over the world. Today, we're going to see whales that live off the New England coast. Miss Frizzle pulled a bunch of booklets from the envelope and handed them out. Captain Gill knows a lot about whales. Here's a copy of his handbook for each of you. It's full of fabulous whale facts. They're amazing animals. Big Blue. You sure that's not a reference to an F-Zero track? Anyway, I'm sorry. Big Blue by Tim. The blue whale is the largest animal that has ever lived on Earth. It's larger than 6 elephants and weighs more than a Semiosaurus? I think that's the name of a dinosaur. Yeah, that is the name of the dinosaur. Duh, it's right there in front of me. Anyway, one of the most gigantic dinosaurs ever known. Interesting. That is actually really interesting. From Captain Gill's Whale Watcher's Handbook, there are more than 75 different kinds of whales living in waters all over the world. And there's an oval-shaped map of planet Earth there. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, where some of the whales are. Blue whale, all oceans worldwide. More lives south of the equator. Gray whale, northern Pacific Ocean. Fin whale, also called razorback. Temperate and cold waters of both hemispheres, more in the south than in the north. Minke whale, tropical, temperate, and polar waters of both hemispheres. Humpback whale, worldwide. Right whale, temperate and cold waters of the northern Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, and of the southern Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. Bowhead whale, Arctic Ocean and cold waters of the northern Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Orca, also called killer whale, worldwide. That makes me think of a certain... SeaWorld did something interesting with the orcas. Anyway. Pilot whale. Interesting. Pilot whale. Northern Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea, also southern Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Oceans. Sperm whale, worldwide. Narwhal, Atlantic Ocean, especially around Canada. Arctic Ocean, especially around Canada. Whoops. Beluga whale, coastal seas of Arctic Ocean, also Hudson Bay, Gulf of St. Lawrence, Barnett Sea, Gulf of Alaska, sometimes North Sea, and Northern Atlantic Ocean. Jeez, this book is really detailed. And that's just a section of this chapter book. Anyway, welcome to the wonderful world of whales. Wow, Carlos said as he flipped at the handbook. I never knew there were so many kinds of whales. That's right, Carlos, the Frizz replied. And all the whales are divided into two types. From the desk of Miss Frizzle, the two types of whales are toothed whales and baleen whales. This toothed whale is an orca. Blech. And there's all the parts of it. Moving on. This baleen whale is a humpback. And here's all the parts of that. This is going to be a great trip, Arnold said, especially since we'll be on a regular boat, not the bus. We won't have to worry about anything weird happening. Yeah, really great, I said. But secretly I was a little worried. What if a whale came too close to our boat and tipped it over? I didn't really want to go. Are you telling me that this isn't going to feature the Magic School Bus at all? I mean, come on, it has to, right? Anyway. What's the big deal about whales, Miss Frizzle? I asked. They're just big fish. Oh no, Wanda. A whale is... Oh, so this is being told from the perspective of Wanda. Interesting. A whale is not a fish at all. It's a mammal, the Frizz replied. You have to get your feet wet to understand the wonderful world of whales. To the bus! Oh my god, I knew they were going to do that. Okay, my question was answered. Never mind. Whales are not fish, by D.A. Whales live in the water, but they are not fish. Whales are mammals, like dogs, cats, bears, and people. Fish have organs called gills that help them get oxygen out of the water. Whales have lungs and need to breathe oxygen from the air. Most fish lay eggs. God, I can't speak. Whales, like all mammals, give birth to live young and to live young. Oh my god, I am so sorry. To live young and feed their babies milk. In a short while, the Magic School Bus pulled up at a harbor on the coast of New England. Where's the ocean? Phoebe asked. It smells fishy, but I can't see a thing in this fog. The fog was getting thicker as we drove closer to the ocean. Miss Frizzle didn't seem too worried. As my great-great-great-great-aunt Aunt Misty used to say, never fear, the fog is bound to clear. Why did that sound like a Dr. Seuss rhyme? Anyway, we were just about to get off the bus when I saw a huge dark shape coming out of the fog. Don't open the door, Miss Frizzle, I called. There's some kind of giant out there. Just a giant at heart, the Frizz said as she pulled the lever to open the doors. The giant stepped right up the stairs onto the bus. It wasn't a giant after all, just a very large man dressed in a dark blue jacket. He had a bushy white beard and wore a cap with an anchor on it. Captain Gill, at your service, the man said in a low, rumbling voice. He gave us a little salute and turned to Miss Frizzle. I tried to call you, ma'am, but I was too late. I'm afraid I have bad news for the little mateys. Why does his accent, or at least his implied accent, make me think of Foxy from FNAF? I mean, it's fitting, at least. It's fitting, considering these are both pirate/sailor characters. Anyway, the big man looked as if he was about to burst into tears. Now, the Frizz said, just tell me what happened. Things may not be as bad as you think. It's my boat, ma'am, Captain Gill said. There was a sudden storm last night. The Neptune got a bit smashed up. Luckily, the damage can be fixed, but she's not going anywhere today. You mean we can't go on the whale watch? I said, relieved. Everyone on the bus seemed upset. Then Miss Frizzle got that twinkle in her eye. Didn't I say that things may not be bad as they seem? She started the engine, and the bus slowly moved along the dock. As we picked up speed, wisps of fog crept inside and swirled around us, so we couldn't see anything inside or out. What's going on? The captain cried. Watch out! You're going to drive straight off the dock! We never drove straight into the ocean at my old school, Phoebe said, her hands covering her eyes. I love that that's a running gag with her in the series of, oh, we never did insert what they're doing currently at my old school. That could get a little bit annoying, though. Sometimes. Anyway, suddenly the fog broke up, and there was water all around us. We were in the middle of the ocean. The bus had turned into a boat. Captain Gill rubbed his eyes. I must be dreaming, he said. No, you're on the magic school I'm magic school No, you're just on the magic school bus, boat, Arnold told him with a sigh. This kind of thing happens all the time. The captain looked around at the roomy cabin and the shiny instrument panel. "She's a beauty, ma'am," he exclaimed. "May I take the helm, Miss Frizzle? I'll keep an eye out for whales and steer us right to them," Captain Gill asked. "Be my guest," Miss Frizzle said. Captain Gill took the wheel, and Liz hopped off Miss Frizzle's shoulder right onto Captain Gill's. "Splendid," said the captain. "Liz can be my first mate." Suddenly, a dark shadow caught my eye. It was moving quickly underneath the boat. The magic school boat. I'm sorry, I had to say it. Whoa! That's a pretty sweet looking... Wow, that's actually pretty sweet looking. It's like a mix between a ferry and a yacht with a bit of supercar influence. That's a sweet looking ride there. Anyway, before I could make a sound, it popped out of the water right next to us. Then another leaped up beside it. "Captain Gill!" I screamed. "Help!" Captain Gill and Miss Frizzle turned their heads to see. Then a huge smile crossed the captain's face. "No need to worry, Wanda," he said. "This is Welcome Company. They are common dolphins." One by one, the black, gray, and cream-colored dolphins dived in and out of the water right next to us. The dolphins were in front of the boat now, still diving and leaping in graceful curves. "The dolphins are bow riding," Captain Gill told us. "The phrase comes from the word we sailors use for the front of the boat, the bow." And well, there's some vehicle terminology for you. So there's the stern, the port, the starboard, and the bow. Interesting. There you go, there's some vehicle terminology. Anyway, it says here that the dolphins are members of the whale family, said Dorothy Ann, checking her book. They're called toothed whales. It's always a treat to have dolphins swim with us, Captain Gill said. From Captain Gill's Whale Watcher's Handbook. Toothed whales. Whales with teeth are called toothed whales. The males are usually larger than the females. Dolphins, porcupines, orcas, sperm whales, and narwhals are all kinds of toothed whales. Blech. Anyway, the dolphins swam on ahead, and we lost sight of them. Captain Gill said, "When you're trying to spot a whale, the first thing to look for is the blow, or its spout. It looks like a spurt of mist coming up from the ocean. Whales make blows when they come up to the surface to breathe. Sometimes we can tell what kind of whale is out there just from the blow." Just then, binoculars dropped down from above our seats. Alright, here's another excerpt from Captain Gill's handbook. Whales breathe through blowholes at the top of the head because the blowholes are on top, but the whale can breathe while most of its body is underwater. The spray you see is the mist that comes out when the whale exhales. Different kinds of whales have blows of different shapes and sizes. Toothed whales have one blowhole, baleen whales have two. And there you go, there's the different blowholes. Alrighty then. Suddenly, Captain Gill cried, "There she is!" Let me restart that. Suddenly, Captain Gill cried, "There she blows! Off to port!" We all grabbed our binoculars and looked out to the left. On a boat, port means left. Starboard means right. It's just saying see the diagram on page... Okay, never mind. On a boat, port means left, starboard means right. And then it mentions the page 15 diagram. Anyways, we could see sprays of water going up all over Tim. Tim checked the spout section in Captain Gill's handbook. "I think those spouts are from fin whales," he said. Just then, a huge, dark gray whale rose out of the water. It came almost straight up. It was so close we could see the white under its jaw and on its belly. "Oh no!" I cried. "It's coming right for us!" But the whale fell backward and hit the water with a great splash. It was amazing, but a little scary. "Aye, mateys," the captain cried. "We're in luck today. These are definitely fin whales." Okay, I said Foxy, now I'm starting to think of Salty. Again, that makes sense given that they're both pirate characters. There she breaches. Wow, that's actually a really pretty picture. Looks almost manga-esque in a way. Okay. Fast Fins by Carlos. The fin is also known as the razorback because of the thin ridge along its back. A fin whale is the second largest animal in the world. The fin whale can be 80 feet long, longer than a railroad passenger car. Really? Wow. Anyway, it is one of the fastest swimmers of all baleen whales, cutting through the water at speeds up to 30 miles per hour. Wow, that's actually really cool. It was awesome the way the whale jumped up, Arnold said. That's called breaching, the captain said. Some experts think that breaching is a way for members of a group of whales to stay in touch with one another, or they may be trying to stun their prey while they hunt. I hope none of those whales feel like breaching again, I said. It might fall on top of us next time. Whales seem to know how to behave around people in boats, Captain Gill said. I've never been toppled by a whale in all my years at sea, but you can never be too careful. True, because when that whale goes back down, it creates a big wave, and that could definitely mess with a boat if you do that correct. I mean, if the right wave comes along. Anyway, just then one of the whales poked its head straight up out of the water. It looked right at us. I covered my eyes. It's just checking us out, Captain Gill said with a laugh. When whales look around like that, we call it spy hopping. Miss Frizzle, I don't want to be spied on by a giant whale, I said. Get us out of here. I can do something about that, Wanda, Miss Frizzle said. Everyone, to the cabin. Now what? Captain Gill asked. Uh-oh. Looks like this is turning into another Miss Frizzle field trip, Arnold told him. She's always doing this to us. Miss Frizzle pushed a red button on the boat's instrument panel. In a blink, the walls curved and the cabin grew longer. The boat had turned into a submarine. No more scratching the surface. No more scratching the surface, mateys. Okay, that's a funny joke. That's genuinely funny. No more scratching the surface, mates, Miss Frizzle said. We're going down deep. We will explore the world of whales in our magic school sub. Prepare to dive. Hey, Miss Frizzle, this field trip is all wet, Carlos joked. Okay, that was actually kind of funny. The bus sub had a long window along the side. We could see hundreds of fish swimming by, right in front of us. The fin whale we had seen on the surface swam off in the other direction. Everything was quiet except for the faint hum of the engine. Suddenly, the windows of the sub were completely filled up by the most enormous shape I'd ever seen. Whoa, this is not good at all, I said nervously. Miss Frizzle, what is that thing? That's no thing, answered Captain Gill. That's a humpback whale. Also, I think I said Chapter 4. This is Chapter 4 in case I didn't say that already. Happy Humpbacks by Tim. The humpback whale, the humpback whale's nickname is Winged New England. Winged New Englander. That's a tongue twister to say. Because of its long white flippers. Humpbacks grow to about 45 feet long, and their tongues alone can weigh 2 tons. Wow. Humpbacks can live to be 50 years old. If you could count the layers of wax in a humpback's ear, you could find out how old it is. You? Anyway, it was so close to the sub that we couldn't see anything else. It's as big as the sub, said Carlos. According to my research, they can weigh up to 30 tons, said Dorothy Ann. Oh my god, she too could get annoying sometimes, Dorothy Ann. Anyway. Look at those fingers, said Ralphie. They're each longer than a car. Okay, that actually does sound like a Ralphie thing that he would say. As the sub made a turn around the humpback, we could see the bottom of its tail. Whale of a Name by Ralphie. The humpback whale gets its name from the way it curves back when it gets ready to make a deep dive. No other kind of whale arches its back so high. Also, the fatty pad of skin on the whale's back adds to its humpback look. See those markings, mateys? The captain asked. Every humpback has a different black and white pattern. It's like a name tag or fingerprint. You can tell one individual from another by its tail markings. Let me name this one, Phoebe exclaimed. The markings look like something like a flower to me. I think a good name for this would be Dandelion. The tail of a whale. Oh my goodness. They did the inverse. Rather than whale of a tail, it's tail of a whale. That's pretty funny. Anyway, a whale's tail is made up of a pair of flukes with a notch in the middle. The whale swims by pushing the flukes up and down in the water and wiggling the rear of its body. It uses its flippers to steer. The dorsal fin on its back helps the whale stay right side up. Each kind of whale has different shaped flippers, flukes, and fins. A few kinds of whales don't have a dorsal fin. There are the different tails. Whales are really interesting, D.A. said. It would be really fun to swim around in the ocean the way they do. Miss Frizzle got that twinkle in her eye again. I have just what you need to dive right in. she said. She took us to the back of the sub and pushed a yellow button on the wall. A panel slid open to reveal a docking platform holding 4 whale-shaped mini-subs. "Well, shiver me timbers," the captain said. "I've never seen anything like that before." "Wow," Ralphie exclaimed. "Are these for us?" The Frizz smiled and opened the cockpit of one of the whale subs. "Each of these mini-subs has room for 2, she said. "They're easy to steer, and you can take them out for 20 minutes to explore the whale's ocean world." Arnold and I seemed to be the only ones who were not thrilled about the surprise assignment. "I should have known this wouldn't be a normal field trip," Arnold groaned. Tim came over to me. "Don't worry, Wanda," he said. "This'll be fun. You could be my partner. And I will be in constant radio contact with you all," Miss Frizzle said. "Just call me if you have any questions." Carlos pulled Arnold down beside him into Whale 1. "Hey, Wanda, just go with the flow." Oh my god, that is so funny. Whoops. There we go. "Hey, Wanda, just go with the flow." That is actually very funny. Alright. Keisha and Ralphie climbed into Whale 2. DA and Phoebe teamed up in Whale 3. Then Tim and I went aboard Whale 4. "Don't wander far from the bus sub," Miss Frizzle told us, "and keep your eyes open. I expect some swimmingly good reports when you return." Captain Gill made sure we all had our copies of his handbook. "You might want to check a fact or two during your ocean exploration," he said. Miss Frizzle, Captain Gill, and Wiz went back into the cabin. I went back into the cabin of the bus sub. They closed the sliding panel behind them. We were all alone in our mini-subs. The 4 mini-subs were lined up facing a spiral opening. Slowly, the spiral turned and water flooded the docking platform. One by one, the little subs slipped silently out into the Atlantic Ocean. The ocean seemed like another world, and believe me, it is. Tim and I could see the other whale mini-subs in front of us. Their propellers were making trails of bubbles. "It's spooky out here alone," I said. "Relax, Wanda," he said. He was having fun steering the mini-sub. "We're only going to be out here for 20 minutes. Look, there's a school of cod. I wonder what other kinds of fish are around here." We could hear Miss Frizzle checking in with the other subs over the radio. Then she contacted us. "Bus sub to Whale 4, report your status." Tim picked up the radio mic. "We're A-OK," he said. "Looks like we're headed into murky waters. What's all this stuff floating by?" "That's plankton, Tim," Miss Frizzle's voice answered. "A mixture of tiny plants and animals. Plankton is like a pasture in the sea. It's one of the basic food sources for fish and other sea creatures, like whales." "Whale 2 calling bus sub." Ralphie's voice came over the radio. "Something strange is going on. There are lots of bubbles swirling above us. All the fish are swimming away." "Uh-oh," Keisha cried. "Here comes a squid. Whoa!" Tim and I could see the squid too. It was swimming fast, just above our mini-sub. Its long arms and tentacles looked like they could grab us. Its long arms and tentacles looked like they could grab us. Okay, I said that right. I just said that too fast. I snatched the radio. "Miss Frizzle, get us out of here," I yelled. "Hang in there, Wanda. The ocean may just surprise you," she said mysteriously. Carlos and Whale 1 came on the radio. "Something is chasing the squid," he said excitedly. "Something black and white, and very big." "I see it," Tim called into the mic. I can't believe it. It's a killer whale." The orca was closing in on the squid. Its tail churned up the water. Our mini-sub began to rock and roll in the waves. We heard Miss Frizzle's voice. "Fasten your seatbelts and hold on tight." I was way ahead of her. "You were all safe in your subs, but the water might get a little rough," the Frizz warned us. "A little rough?" It was like being in a washing machine. Our mini-sub went spinning round and round and round in the bubbles. Talk about seasick. Orca the Great by Tim. The scientific name for the killer whale is orca. Is orca. These black and white whales are often seen in marine parks doing tricks. They are great acrobats. Oh my god, they reference SeaWorld by saying marine parks. I knew they were going to do it eventually. Anyway, these black and white whales are often seen in marine parks doing tricks. They are great acrobats in the wild. They are fierce hunters. They go after fish, seals, birds, squids, turtles, and sometimes the young of the other whales, but they are not known to attack people. You don't say. Have you not seen the Blackfish documentary? Anyway. Finally, the spinning stopped and the water grew calm again. The whale and the squid were gone. Ooh, that was a bumpy ride, Tim said. You can say that again. I think we're in over our heads. I've had enough of this underwater world. We looked through the sea of plankton swirling around us. Hey, Tim cried, where are the other whale subs? Where's the bus sub? Oh no, what do we do? I asked. I don't see them anywhere. We're fine, we've got the radio, Tim said as he picked up the mic. Whale 4 to bus sub, come in, Miss Frizzle. The radio made an awful crackling noise and then went silent. SOS! SOS! Tim called into the mic. Come in, bus sub. There was no answer. Why did this happen to us? I asked. By now I was really worried. Don't tell me we've lost radio contact. We've lost radio contact, Tim said. I asked you to not tell me that, I mumbled. What do we do now? Well, we don't know how far we are from the bus sub and the other whale subs, or even what direction to steer. Tim was thinking out loud. I guess it's best to stay here. I'm sure Miss Frizzle will find us before too long. But now even Tim was looking worried. We stared at the window. Where was Miss Frizzle, and where were the other whale subs? Were they lost too? A bit of a vehicle rescue going on. Meanwhile, in the bus sub, Captain Gill and Wiz were frantically flipping switches on the instrument panel, trying to locate the whale subs. Bus sub to whale subs, come in all whale subs, Miss Frizzle said over and over into the radio. There was no answer. Blasted barnacles, moaned Captain Gill. I hope that nothing bad has happened to the little mateys. Their radios aren't working, Miss Frizzle told him. But I can see 4 blips on the sonar screen. They're all close except one. It looks like Whale 4 was pulled farther away than the others. I'm sure they'll be all right. But let's get going. As my second cousin, A.O. Sean, always said, the early orca catches the squid. She spoke into the radio again, calling all mini-subs. I see you all on the sonar screen. If you can hear me, stay where you are. Enjoy the scenery. I'm coming to pick you up. In Whale 1, Carlos and Arnold were staring out the window of their sub. I knew I should have stayed home today, Arnold said. Now I'll never get home in time to water my rock collection. Don't worry, Arnold, Carlos told him. I'm sure the Frizz will rescue us soon, and look who's there. I don't believe it, Arnold said. That whale just swam by. It was Dandelion. Right, Carlos said. I saw the tail markings, too. That's definitely the same humpback we saw before. Oh, wow, they actually reuse a plot point a little bit. Huh. Oh no, it's opening its mouth, Arnold said. It's huge. It looks like a soup bowl, Carlos said, but big enough to hold a car. Opened wide by Carlos, a humpback can open its mouth really wide because it has grooves on its throat that expand like an accordion. It can hold many tons of water in its mouth at one time. As Dandelion came near to the sub, it opened its mouth even wider. We're going to be lunch! We're going to be lunch! Arnold moaned. Just then, Arnold and Carlos watched as Dandelion swam past them into a mass of tiny fish and plankton. Yikes! When Dandelion's bowl was filled, the whale closed its mouth. Then water came rushing out the sides, nearly sending the mini-sub into another wild spin. Whales that are not toothless eaters by Arnold. Whales that are not whales are baleen whales. Baleen whales don't have teeth. Instead, they have hundreds of long strips of baleen, also called plates, growing down from the upper jaw. Baleen is like a built-in strainer. Water, plankton, and tiny fish called krill go into the whale's mouth. The whale pushes the water out, and the fish and krill are trapped inside. Each whale bite can contain 1 million or more tiny fish. And there are the krill. It's a good thing we weren't any closer, said Arnold. We were almost part of Dandelion's dinner. Dandelion swam away just as the bus pulled up alongside Whale 1. Miss Frizzle opened the door to the docking platform, and Carlos steered the mini-sub inside. Ahoy, mateys, cried Captain Gill as Arnold and Carlos climbed into the cabin. "You won't believe how much a humpback can eat, Captain Gill," said Arnold. "Humpbacks eat a lot when they're up here in their feeding grounds," the captain explained. They store up food for the winter. When they make a long journey south, they may not get to eat again for months. Blubbering blubber. I think it's how you say that. Whales store their food as blubber as part of as layer of fat under the whale's skin. Blubber keeps the whale's body warm when it's in cold waters, and the whale lives off its blubber when it's migrating. I knew that. "Where are the other kids?" asked Carlos. "Have no fear, Carlos," said the Frizz. "We're on our way to Whale 2. Don't you know that you kids are always on my sonar screen?" Liz set the controls. "We're off to pick up Keisha and Ralphie." Every year, humpbacks migrate from the cold polar waters where they feed to warmer tropical waters. There they mate and have babies. In the spring, the whales swam back north with the young whales. Humpbacks only swim about 3 miles per hour, but they travel 1,000 miles a month when they migrate. Keisha and Ralphie had drifted close to a giant log. "What's that giant log doing in the middle of the ocean?" Keisha asked. Suddenly the log turned over. It was now tilted in the water, tail overhead. "That's no log," Keisha said. "It's a huge humpback." Then a string of loud moans, squeals, and groans started to come from the direction of the whale. The sounds were so loud that the water around the sub started to vibrate. "Why is that whale yelling at us?" Ralphie asked, putting his hands over his ears. "I don't think it likes having us around. These sounds are spooky, but they're kind of pretty too," Keisha said. "It's almost like music." The sounds went on for a few minutes, then stopped. Then started again. "It's repeating the song," Keisha exclaimed. Whales make a lot of different sounds. They sneeze, blow, whistle, and sigh. They squeak, bleat, moan, bark, and squeal. Toothed whales, such as dolphins, make clicking noises that act as sonar to help them find a way around in the dark. Other kinds of whales sing, but the male humpback makes the most complicated and haunting sounds of all. No one knows for sure why whales sing. Some experts think it's a special way for them to find mates. "Okay, Keisha, try not to flip her out," Ralphie joked. Just then, Miss Frizzle arrived in the bus sub. Keisha and Ralphie joined the others in the cabin. "The humpback song is engaging," Miss Frizzle said after pausing to take in the sounds, "but we best be on our way. There are 2 more whale subs out there waiting to be rescued." While the other whale subs were being rescued, Tim and I were floating along in the middle of School of Tuna. "I wish I knew where we are," I said, worried. "Miss Frizzle's got it under control," Tim said, but he sounded concerned too. "Those fish are staring at us," I said. "It feels creepy, like goldfish in a bowl." "It's weird that they're looking at us," Tim agreed. At least we can get out sooner or later. A goldfish has to stay in a bowl all its life. "I hope we get out," I said. I was trying to stay cool, but it was hard just to sit and watch the fish watch us. We kept trying the radio, but it was completely dead. We were stranded. In Whale 3, DA was checking to see if she'd brought along her textbook on radio communication. "It's no use. I still can't get the Frizz on the radio," she said. Even though they were worried, Phoebe couldn't help having fun watching a humpback mother and her baby. Phoebe and DA had named them Mazzy and Freckles. "Freckles is so playful," Phoebe said. "Look at how she keeps tossing that bunch of seaweed with her head." The seaweed landed on the calf's snout. DA and Phoebe laughed. "Freckles seemed to like her seaweed mustache," DA said. Big Babies by Phoebe. A newborn humpback is about 14 feet long, about as long as a car. Whale mothers are called cows, and their babies are called calves. A whale cow has 1 calf at a time. A calf drinks 100 pounds of its mother's milk each day. A calf and cow stay together for a year or longer. While in the warm waters of their breeding grounds, the humpback whale calf feeds on its mother's milk, but the adult whale doesn't eat anything. It lives off its blubber. Freckles did not swim far from Maisie. Every now and then she would dive under her mother and take a drink of milk. The 2 whales swam up to the surface to breathe. then dove back down with Freckles on Maisie's back. When Maisie swam upward, Freckles slid down her tail. They played this sliding game over and over. The humpback swam away quickly when they heard a noise coming closer. "It's the bus sub," called D.A. Miss Frizzle to the rescue. I knew she'd find us." "I can't wait to tell her about Freckles," said Phoebe. Captain Gill greeted Phoebe and D.A. with open arms and a big smile. "Welcome aboard, you brave little skippers," he said. "We weren't afraid, Captain Gill. Not much, anyhow," D.A. said, patting Liz on the head. D.A. told everyone about watching the calf and its mother. "One thing I don't understand, though. How can a whale not drown if it's born underwater?" "Good question, matey," said the captain. "Nature thinks of everything. For one thing, the birth takes place near the surface. Also, the baby comes out of its mother's body tail first, not head first like a human. As soon as the baby is born, its mother pushes it up to the surface for its first breath. The calf is born knowing not to breathe until its blowhole is out of the water. We call that instinct," Miss Frizzle said. "Instinct is something you know without being taught," D.A. laughed. "Tim is always saying I have an instinct for science," she said. Then she looked around. Where are Tim and Wanda anyway? We're on our way to pick them up now. They're right here," Miss Frizzle said, pointing to the sonar screen. "That's funny," she said. "I don't think she means ha-ha funny, Arnold." "Whale 4 has disappeared from the sonar screen," she told us. "I'm getting hungry," Tim said. "I wonder if there's anything to eat in the emergency supplies." It was just like Tim to think of food at a time like this. Suddenly, we heard a terrible slapping noise, and our whale stubs started rocking back and forth. "Oh, this is bad," I said. "Tim, what is that sound?" Tim was quickly flipping through pages in Captain Gill's handbook when the book flew out of his hands. The sub was still rocking, and everything was falling out of the compartments of the sub. Tim and I rummaged around the sub, trying to put things back in place. Nets, life jackets, and flashlights had fallen on top of us. "Yum, good granola bar," said Tim, popping a big chunk of granola into his mouth. "Tim, how can you eat at a time like this? We have to do something." Tim finally found the page he was searching for in Captain Gill's handbook. He searched with a strange expression. Wait, hold on. He looked up with a strange expression on his face. "There's good news. The good news is that I think there's a whale out here who was lobtailing. It's slapping its tail against the water over and over again, possibly as a way to communicate with its pod. The bad news is it could go on a long time and will keep rocking." A Lot of Peas in a Pod by Wanda. Many kinds of whales swim in groups called pods. A pod is like a whale's extended family and can include 10 to 1,000 whales. Suddenly, I noticed water pouring into the bottom of the sub. Tim, we don't have a long time. Water! I grabbed a pail from underneath my seat. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. There was a button on the control panel with black letters on it. SURC. Source? I said. "What could that mean? Maybe it's some kind of boat word," Tim guessed. "I've never heard of it." He leaned over to get a closer look. "Wait a minute," he said. "There's a space between the R and C. Hey, the black paint on a couple of letters got rubbed off. I can just make out the shape of the letters. F and A. S-U-F-A-C-E, I spelled out. "Surface," Tim said. Wait, surface? We looked at each other. "This is a mini-submarine," I said. "Submarines can go up to the surface of the water. If we push this button, we'll go up," we both said together. "Do you want to try it?" Tim asked me. I wasn't sure if it was a good idea. On the other hand, the water was up past our ankles, and it was getting higher. What if Miss Frizzle couldn't find us quickly enough? We had to do something fast. "Okay," I said, "do it." I held my breath as Tim pushed the button. The whale sub rose slowly. The water got clearer and brighter as we moved to the surface. Then we were there. The ocean water sparkled in the sunlight. We blinked to get used to the brightness. Even if Miss Frizzle can't find us for some reason, maybe a boat or plane will come by. "We'll be okay, Wanda," Tim said. We looked out over the ocean with our binoculars. "I see something, Tim," I called. "Some dark bumps in the water. Maybe islands." "Not unless islands move," Tim said. Those bumps seemed to be floating towards us, and the next instant the bumps exploded into the air. "Whales!" we cried. 5 or 6 whales were breaching One by one, they leapt up and came splashing down. We could see that they had black tubby bodies with large paddle-shaped flippers. And no dorsal fin. They all had patches of thickened skin on their heads. Tim checked Captain Gill's handbook. "Those are right whales," Tim exclaimed. "They're the rarest of all the great whales." Right on for the right whale. The right whale can be as long as 50 feet, and almost half its weight is blubber. They swim in large pods, feeding and communicating with one another. Right whales are the most endangered of the great whales. "What makes them so rare?" I asked. "The handbook says that whale hunters in olden times killed so many that right whales were nearly wiped out of existence. Whale experts think there are fewer than 500 living in the northern Atlantic, and we're looking at some right now. Wait until we tell Captain Gill about this." Captain Gill's Whale Watcher's Handbook. Humans have hunted the great whales for hundreds of years for their blubber and baleen. Blubber is used for meat and can be boiled to make oil. The first whale hunters, the Inuit of Alaska, used baleen to make many things, including their sleds, spears, and tools. In later times, people have found hundreds of other uses for baleen. The right whale got its name from whalers. This was the right whale for them to hunt. That's honestly kind of depressing, not gonna lie. The whales stopped breaching. Most of them disappeared underwater. "Look," Tim called. "One of the whales is turning around." "Oh no, it's coming right for us," I said. The huge head was scary. I could hardly watch. "This could be the wrong whale for me," I whispered. "What if it crashes into us?" I watched as the whale swam once around our sub. Then it lifted one of its big flippers and swam off. I sighed with relief, but the next second it came back. It waved its flipper again. "It's hard to believe," I said, "but I think that whale wants us to follow it." "This could be interesting," Tim said. "Okay, let's go." The whale moved slowly but steadily along, never too fast for our sub. Sometimes it held its tail up high, like a sail on a boat. "That whale is smart," I said. "It's letting the breeze do all the work." Watching the right whale sail calmly through the ocean, I forgot to worry about the trouble we were in. Then, all of a sudden, a line appeared on the horizon. "Land!" I called. "The whale is leading us right home! How cool is that? He really is the right whale after all." Suddenly, we heard a noise coming behind us. A sleek speedboat came gliding along. It looked like something like our magic school bus. A man on the deck and a small green wizard were waving their arm. "Captain Gill! Liz! Ahoy there, mateys!" he called. "We got here as fast as we could. How do you like the new boat?" Soon, Tim and I were on board the speedboat. Miss Frizzle came out on the deck. She was glad to see that Tim and I were all right. "We had a hard time finding you two," she said, "but it looks like you were headed the right way towards land. How did you know which direction to go?" "After Wanda's got us to the surface," Tim said. "We had some help from a friend," I finished. "A large one with flippers." "It wasn't just a fluke," Tim grinned. At that moment, our right whale turned back and swam once around the speedboat. Then it dove, lifting its flukes high into the air as if to wave goodbye. "Goodbye," I called. "Thanks for the help." Then the whale was gone and we were on our way home. "This was a wonderful field trip," I told Miss Frizzle. "I never knew a right whale could make me see how wrong I was about whales." Chapter 9. When we walked into the classroom the next day, we got another Frizzle surprise. One bulletin board was filled with photos of whales with names such as Scooter, Tiny, Tim, Skyrocket, and Angel. A banner read, "Help the Giants of the Sea. Sponsor a whale." Miss Frizzle clapped her hands to get our attention. "Attention, class. I have some important news. We are about to get a new classmate." We looked at each other. "Is it a boy or a girl?" Phoebe asked. "It could be either." Miss Frizzle said, "You get to choose. We're going to help take care of a whale." "Excuse me, Miss Frizzle," I said, "but I don't think a whale will fit in the classroom or even in the gym." Miss Frizzle laughed. "Our whale is going to stay in the ocean where it belongs," she said. Then she explained what it was all about. "First, we need to raise money to pay the sponsorship fee. I thought we could sell our shell and rock collection that we picked up at the end of the whale watch." Liz held a seashell close to her heart. "It's okay, Liz. We don't have to sell that one." Our sponsorship fee," she continued, "will go to a research organization that studies whales and works to protect them from human-made dangers, such as water pollution and illegal hunting." We'll get a photo of our whale and news reports about where the whale has been seen and what it's been up to. Can we choose one of these whales? DA asked, pointing to the bulletin board. That's the idea, Miss Frizzle said. These whales have been named by the research scientist. They can tell the whales apart by their coloring, scars, special markings, or the patterns of growths on their bodies, such as the callocytes, I think that's how you say that, on a right whale's head. We studied the bulletin board. Which one of these whales will we choose to join our class? Scooter was a male humpback. Tiny Tim was a huge male blue whale. Skyrocket was a female orca, and Angel was a female right whale. There were others to choose from: humpbacks, fin whales, a couple of white beluga whales that lived in the waters of Canada, and all kinds of dolphins. I think we should get Scooter, DA said. He could sing to us. No, it should be Tiny Tim, Ralphie said. He's the biggest. Then I spoke up. I choose Angel, I said. After all, it was a right whale that helped Tim and me. Right on, Wanda, Tim said. I choose Angel too. And here's what they all look like. Alrighty. Me too, Carlos said. It seems like the right thing to do. You've got that right, Phoebe added. When you're right, you're right, DA said. I'll change my vote. Well, it looks like Angel is the right whale for us, Miss Frizzle said. Everyone say hello to the newest member of the class. From the desk of Miss Frizzle saved the whales. Long ago, whale hunting was a big business in many countries, including the US. Now people use other materials in place of baleen and blubber. Only a few countries, mainly Japan and Norway, still have a whaling industry. There, minke sperms and other whales continue to be killed off for their meat and oil. Many people think that whales should not be hunted anymore. There are laws that limit the number of whales that can be killed every year. Some kinds of whales, the blue, gray, right, and humpback, are not allowed to be hunted at all. As long as concerned people work to protect them, there will always be wondrous whales in the oceans of the earth. Whales in the World by the kids in Miss Frizzle's class. On this adventure, we found out about fin, humpback, killer, and right whales. There are many other kinds of whales, too. Here are a few of them. Look at the map on page 5 to see where they live. Oh my goodness, camera. Come on, there we go. The largest animal in the world, this baleen whale can be 90 feet long and weigh as much as 32 elephants. Its heart is the size of a VW Beetle car, and its eyes are the size of grapefruits. Wait, really? Wow. Blue whales are actually bluish-gray. A relative of the northern right whale, this giant black and white baleen whale has a lot of thick rubber. It can be 60 feet long and weigh 100 tons. The bowhead was the favorite of early whalers. Thousands and thousands were killed. Now there are only about 3,000 to 5,000 left. Gray whale, a favorite with whale watchers because they are so curious. These baleen whales often swim right alongside the boat so people can reach over and touch them. Gray whales can be up to 40 or 50 feet long. Males weigh about 15 tons. Females are twice as heavy. Sperm whale, the largest of the toothed whales. The sperm whale can be 60 feet long as many of the baleens. Its huge head takes up 1/3 of its length. Sperm whales are found deep in oceans and seas the world over. That's funny. Some of their favorite foods are vampire squid, giant octopus, and sharks. The whale in the famous book Moby Dick is a sperm whale. Oh yeah, it does have that resemblance. Anyway. Bottlenose dolphin. Bottlenose dolphins are a favorite performer in marine parks, aka Sea World. Anyway, stories have been told about how friendly toothed whales have saved people from drowning or taken a swimmer for a ride. Taking a swimmer for a ride. That definitely does sound like something SeaWorld would do, or probably has done. Anyway, but we also know that in the wild they sometimes attack and hurt each other. Minke whale. Minks are among the smallest of the baleen whales. A large one is about 30 feet long and weighs 10 tons. They are black or gray with white on their belly and a white armband across the flippers. Beluga whale. These toothed whales are about 15 feet long and weigh 1 to 1.5 tons. Beluga calves are dark gray, but turn white by the age of 4 or 5. Their white color helps belugas blend in with the snow and ice of their Arctic homes. Belugas are called sea canaries because they are always squealing and chirping like birds. They are among the most vocal of all the whales. Narwhal. Many people say that the legend of the unicorn came from the narwhal. Its horn is really a tooth that cuts through the upper lip and keeps growing until it becomes a tusk 5 to 10 feet long. Some narwhals have 2 tusks. Only male narwhals have a really long tusk. What is it for? Many scientists think it may just be for show, like the antlers of a male deer or moose. Sponsor a whale. You or your class can sponsor a whale. On the next page are some organizations to contact for information. If you're thinking about sponsoring a whale, remember to have an adult make the long-distance call or write to the sponsor program you're interested in to find out more information. Happy whale watching! Oh wow, there are actually, dedicated... Huh. Wow, there are actually dedicated sponsor programs on the back of this book. Huh. Interesting. And here's what the back of the book is. Alright, so it's the end of this book, but it's not the end of the video just yet. And oh boy, this video has been long so far. Next up is Lost in the Solar System. Lost in the Solar System. What is the Solar System by John? The Solar System is the Sun and all the bodies that orbit around it. The 9 planets, their moons, the asteroids, chunks of rock, and comets, balls of ice and dust. It was trip day again in Miss Frizzle's class. Everyone was excited. We were going to the planetarium to see a sky show about the solar system. Class, an orbit is the path of a planet or other object around the sun. I knew that. I get all A's in school. I have 5 computers. My class went to the planetarium. Arnold's cousin Janet was visiting her class for the day. I know all of you will be nice to our guests, said the Frizz. What a show-off. Thanks for inviting your cousin Arnold. She's actually nice when you get to know her. My school is taller than your... We tried to be nice to Janet. We really did. As we got on the school bus, we told her that Miss Frizzle is the weirdest teacher in school, but Janet wasn't interested. She wanted to tell us all about herself. My school is taller than your school. Our swings are better than your swings. My teacher is weirder than your teacher. Who wants a tall school? I love how Arnold is even thinking about that. As usual, it took a while to get the old bus started, but finally we were on our way. As we were driving, Miss Frizzle told us all about how the Earth spins like a top as it moves in its orbit. It was just a short drive to the planetarium, but Miss Frizzle talked fast. This bus is a wreck. At least it started this time. We have new school buses at our school. What Makes Night and Day by Phoebe. The spinning of the Earth makes a night and day. When one side of the Earth faces the sun, it's daytime on that side. When that side turns away from the sun, it's night. When the Earth spins, we say it rotates. The Earth makes one complete rotation every 24 hours. I actually really like the art style of this book, by the way. When we got to the planetarium, it was closed for repairs. Class, this means we'll have to return to school, said the Frizz. We were so disappointed. Back to school? I'm so depressed. My planetarium is always open. On the way back, we were waiting at a red light. Then something amazing happened. The bus started tilting back, and we heard the roar of rockets. Oh dear, said Miss Frizzle. We seem to be blasting off. Here we go again. Not another crazy trip. Children, we are going through the atmosphere and the layers of air around the Earth. I guess we'll be seeing the solar system after all. My bus has bigger rockets than your bus. Yeah, right, Janet. What are spaceships launched with rockets? By Wanda. Spaceships cannot just fly into outer space. They need rockets to break free from the powerful grip of Earth's gravity. What is gravity? By Michael. Gravity is the force that pulls objects towards the center of the Earth. Other planets have gravity. 2. Larger planets usually have more gravity. Smaller planets usually have less gravity. I love this book's art style. Why do people feel weightless in space? By Phil. Gravity gives objects weight without a large mass nearby, such as a planet. There is no gravity to pull objects down, so they do not have weight. When the roar of the rocket stopped, or no, hold on. Wait, hold on, yeah. When the roar of the rocket stopped, we looked around. Everything had changed. The bus had turned into a spaceship. We were all dressed in spacesuits, and we were lighter than feathers. We floated above our seat. I'm flying higher than you are. Look, it's a UFB. A what? An unidentified flying banana. Okay, that was funny. That was actually funny. Anyway, far behind in the black sky, we saw the planet Earth getting smaller and smaller. We were traveling in space. We had become astronauts. Look how small the Earth seems from here. Class, notice Earth's blue oceans, white clouds, and brown land. It's beautiful. I think I have to go to the bathroom. I love the slight detail they did there with that. Miss Frizz said that the first stop would be on the moon. We got off the bus and looked around. There was no air, no water, and no sign of life. All we saw were dust and rock, and lots of craters. Miss Frizzle said that the craters were formed billions of years ago when the moon was hit by meteorites. Meteorites are falling chunks of rock and metal. You're waiting. What does that say? Fate on the moon. Oh no, does that say fat or fate? I think it says fate. You will travel to far-off places. We are so light on the moon. That's because the moon has less gravity on it than Earth. It was fun on the moon. We wanted to play, but Miss Frizzle said it was time to go. So we got back on the bus. We'll start with the sun, the center of the solar system, said the Frizz, and we blasted off. Look at how high we can jump. I was in a national jump rope contest. I won, of course. Is there a national bragging contest? And here's what makes the moon shine by Rachel. The moon does not make any light of its own. The moonlight we see from Earth is actually really light from the sun. It hits the moon and bounces off. The way light is reflected is reflected from a mirror. The Moon's Orbit by Amanda Jane. The moon travels in orbit around the Earth, just as the Earth travels around the sun. The Sun is a Star by Carmen. Our sun is an average star like the ones we see in the night sky. Which star do we see only in the daytime? That's easy, the sun. How big is the sun? By Gregory. Our sun measures more than 1 billion kilometers across. More than 1 million Earths could fit inside it. We zoom towards the sun, the biggest and brightest and hottest object in the solar system. Jets of super hot gases shot out at us from the surface. Thank goodness Miss Frizzle didn't get too close. You should never look directly at the sun, children. It can damage your eyes. You should never drive a bus directly in the sun either. Solar flares are giant storms on the sun's surface. She steered around to the other side and pulled away. We'll be seeing all the planets in order, class, explained Frizzy. Mercury is the first planet that's closest to the sun. My school is heated with solar energy. I have a sun deck. I have 10 pairs of sunglasses. Give us a break, Janet. Sunspots, the areas that are cooler than the rest of the sun. How hot is the sun? By Florine. At the center of the sun, the temperature is about 15 million degrees congregate centigrade? I think it's how you say that. The sun is so hot, it heats planets that are millions of kilometers away. Mercury was a dead sun-baked planet. This planet is a lot like our moon. There is no water and hardly any air, said the Frizz. Notice the craters on its surface as we pass by. The sun looks twice as big as it does from Earth. That's because Mercury is so close. Too close. Let's go. Before long, we felt ourselves being pulled in by the gravity of Venus. The second planet was from the sun. Venus was completely covered by a thick layer of yellowish clouds. We will now explore the surface of Venus, said Miss Frizzle. We're gaining weight, and we haven't even had lunch. We'll be heavier here than on the moon or Mercury because Venus has more gravity. What was I saying? Why are the Venus's clouds yellow? By Tim, Earth's clouds are white because they're made of water vapor. Venus's clouds are made mostly of deadly yellow poison called sulfuric acid. Why is it so hot on Venus? By Ralph, Venus's atmosphere has a lot of carbon dioxide gas in it. Carbon dioxide acts like a blanket to hold heat in. When heat is trapped like this, by a planet's atmosphere, it is called the greenhouse effect. Below the clouds, Venus was as dry as a desert. The ground was covered with rocks, and it was hot. It was about 400 degrees centigrade. That's much hotter than the oven baking cookies. There's no life on Venus, class. It's too hot. It's too dry. There's too much acid. Let's leave. The air was so heavy we could feel it pressing down on us. Miss Frizzle said there might be volcanoes around, too. We said, let's get out of here. Our next stop is Mars, the red planet, far from the sun, announced the Frizz. On our way, we'll be passing through the orbit of the Earth, the third planet. The bus lifted off with a roar. I've been to Mars lots of times. Just ignore her. It Never Rains on Venus, by Dorothy Ann. Venus's clouds never make rain because it is too hot for rain to form. Any liquid on Venus dries up instantly. And there's their path so far. Why aren't Mars's moons round? By John. Large moons are round because of their gravity. Billions of years ago, when large moons were formed, their gravity pulled in their material evenly and made them round. The moons of Mars are so small that they don't have enough gravity to be round. These are moons? They look like potatoes with craters. Okay, that's funny. As we came close to Mars, we passed its two moons, which are called Phobos and Deimos. Compared to our moon, they were tiny and they weren't even round. Long ago, there may have been water in those channels, but today all Mars water is frozen. Is frozen in the polar ice caps. Looking down, we saw a huge canyon. Miss Frizzle said it was as long as the United States. There was a volcano 3 times taller than the tallest volcano on Earth, and all around there were channels that looked like dried-up riverbeds. Earth is the best planet for life. That's why I live here. Janet likes to be the best. We noticed. Is there life on Mars? No, life has never been... No. Is there life on Mars? By Molly. No life has ever been found on Mars. Living things need water, and there is no liquid water on Mars, so space scientists think life probably cannot exist there. Why is Mars red? By Arnold. Mars looks red because there's a lot of rusty iron in its soil. The sky looks pinkish because of the red dust in the air. We landed and started walking around. Suddenly, a huge dust storm blew up. Miss Frizzle said dust storms on Mars can last for months. They may cover the whole planet. We scrambled back on the bus and headed out. Are there any aliens here? I don't see any. Don't be too sure. Mars is the last of what we call the inner planets. Miss Frizzle shouted above the roar of the rockets. We will now be going to the asteroid belt to the outer planets. Isn't space travel exciting, Arnold? I really prefer film strips. What are the inner planets? By Alex. The inner planets are the 4 planets closest to the Sun: Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. And the 4 inner planets are all hard and rocky. And here's their path so far. The Asteroid Belt by Shirley. The area between the inner and outer planets is called the Asteroid Belt. It is filled with thousands and thousands of asteroids. What are asteroids? By Florine. Asteroids are chunks of rock and metal in orbit around the sun. Scientists think they are building rocks of a planet that never formed. Thousands of asteroids were spinning around us. All at once we heard the tinkling of broken glass. One of our taillights had been hit by an asteroid. Miss Frizzle put the bus on autopilot to take a look. She kept talking about asteroids over the bus radio. The largest asteroid is 1/3 the size of our moon. Most asteroids are the size of houses or smaller. I'd wish she'd come inside. Suddenly there was a snap. Miss Frizzle's tether line had broken without warning. The rockets fired up and the bus zoomed away. The autopilot was malfunctioning. On the radio, Miss Frizzle's voice grew fainter and fainter. Then she was gone. We're on our own. We're lost in the solar system. Kids, I'll meet you later. Come in, Miss Frizzle. Do you read me? But most of us were too scared to move. Janet started searching the bus in the glove compartment. She found Miss Frizzle's lesson book. As she began reading from it, a huge planet came into view. Class, this is Jupiter, Janet read. It's the first of the outer planets and the largest in the solar system. She shouldn't touch Miss Frizzle's things, but this is an emergency. As we approach Jupiter, we can see some of its 16 moons. Arnold, are you listening? Boy, Miss Frizzle plans everything. Haha, that's funny. It's kind of reprising what it said up here on the book. That is kind of funny. Or on the lesson plan, my bad. We thought the school bus was going to land, but there was no solid ground to land on. Jupiter is a gas giant, a planet made almost entirely of gas. As we left Jupiter, we wondered and worried, would we ever get home? Great red spot. Jupiter is so big that more than 1,000 Earths can fit inside it. Miss Frizzle, where are you? What is Jupiter's Great Red Spot by Gregory? The red spot is probably a huge storm of swirling gas that has lasted for hundreds and hundreds of years. And there's their path so far. What are Saturn's rings? By Rachel. Saturn's rings are made of ice, rock, and dust, all in orbit around the planet. The next sight made us forget our troubles. It was Saturn, a gas giant like Jupiter. It had swirling clouds and lots of moons, but the most incredible thing about Saturn was its rings. It was the most beautiful planet in the solar system. There are thousands of rings around Saturn, class. They look like grooves in a phonograph record. Saturn is the grooviest planet, man. That was funny. Rock, ice, and dust. The Floating Planet by Phoebe. Saturn is made of materials that are lighter than water. If there was a bathtub big enough, Saturn could float in it. Could Saturn take a bath? Yes, but it might leave a ring. Okay, that's kind of funny. The Tipped Over Planet by Ralph. Uranus spins differently from the other planets. It seems to be lying on its side compared to most other planets in the solar system. There's the example of that right there. Next was Uranus, a blue-green gas planet with faint gray rings and moons. Some scientists think they might be made of chunks and graphite, the material used in pencils on Earth. Oh, interesting. Huh. Methane gas in its atmosphere makes Uranus look blue. You look kind of blue yourself. I'm freezing. That's because we're so far away from the sun. The bus was going faster and faster, and we couldn't control the autopilot. We swept past stormy Jupiter, another blue-green planet, 8 from the sun. All we could think about was finding Miss Frizzle. Jupiter is the last of the gas giant planets. We're almost out of gas ourselves. Great dark spot. And the nearest service station is 4,000 million kilometers away. How long is a year by Tim? A year is a time that takes for a planet to go all around the sun. Neptune and Uranus are so far away from the sun that they have very long years. One Earth on Uranus is 84 Earth years. Neptune's year is 165 Earth years. Is Pluto a real planet? By Wanda. Some scientists think Pluto was once a moon of Jupiter, or not Jupiter, sorry, Neptune. It may have escaped from the orbit around Neptune, then it became a real planet in orbit of the sun. Pluto was the last planet discovered by the known solar system. Huh, shows you how old it is. I don't think Jupiter's considered a planet anymore. Anyway. Also, here's that. We were going so fast, we almost missed seeing the 9th planet, tiny Pluto and its moon, Charon. We were so far away from the sun that it didn't look big anymore. It looked just like a very bright star. We were leaving the solar system. Every 248 years, Jupiter's orbit is further out than Pluto's. Then Neptune is its 9th planet, but most of the time Pluto is the 9th planet from the sun. There's nothing out here but stars. Maybe there's a 10th planet waiting to be discovered. It'll have to wait. I hope Miss Frizzle is waiting too. Now, I do apologize for this page, for these two pages kind of being free-floating a little bit. This book is old, and that's kind of what happened, so I'm going to try and read these the best I can. Janet flipped rapidly through Miss Frizzle's book. Suddenly, she found something new, the instructions for the autopilot. We punched in asteroid belt on the control panel. Slowly, the bus turned around. It was working. We were going back. Janet saved the day. I told you she's a good kid. Beyond Pluto, Stars and More Stars by Alex. Beyond our solar system are billions and billions of stars. There are so many stars, they're so far away that our minds cannot even imagine it. Some of these stars may have planets, and some of those planets could have life on them, just like our Earth. And there's their path so far. Okay, so which free-floating... Okay, yeah, I do apologize for how bad this looks. This book is old, so... When we reached the asteroid belt, there was Miss Frizzle. Hey, is that Arnold dressed funny? That's not an asteroid, it's Miss Frizzle. Boy, am I glad to see her. Me too. Miss Frizzle, with Frizzle back at the wheel. Frizzy? Wait, is that Frizzy or Frizzle? I think, is that an I or L? I think that's supposed to be no, Frizzy. Anyway. With Frizzle back at the wheel, the bus headed straight for Earth. We re-entered the atmosphere and landed with a thump and looked around. Boys and girls, we are arriving on Earth, the 3rd planet from the sun. Thump. We were in the school parking lot again. The rockets were gone. The spacesuits were gone. The bus was a wreck. Everything was back to normal. Thank goodness. Hello again, old friend. Our planet chart. Another free-floating page. Our planet chart. I am not reading that. If you would like to pause the video and read that, you can. In the classroom, we made a terrific chart of the planets and a mobile, my bad. And a mobile of our solar system. It was time to go. At last, it was time to go home. It had been a typical day in Miss Frizzle's class. Now we only had one problem. Would anyone ever believe us when we told about our trip? We went to outer space today. Of course you did, dear. And there was Miss Frizzle floating among the asteroids. What an imagination. Wait, is this kid's mom a librarian? That's what it implies here by the picture. Anyway. My favorite planet was Jupiter. No, maybe Mars. Of course, Saturn was gorgeous too. Mom, make him stop. Oh, that is so relatable. Anyway. We could have been lost in space forever. Eat your salad, honey. Wait, Daily Buzz, what is this about? Pilot reports UFO. Says it looked like an old school bus. Now that's how you tie in the story to real life a little bit. It makes sense that a spaceship would be considered a UFO. Okay, that is actually funny. Anyway, and of course, the end. Alright, so with this very long video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to y'all later.